Good day and good night. Welcome to the High and Low Retrospective, a place where we rewind the reels, revisit the shows that shaped generations, and ask why they still matter today. On this episode, we're not just talking about a TV show, we're talking about a Canadian institution, a cultural export that grew from classroom lessons to international screens, and in the process, helped redefine what teen drama could be. This one's about Degrassi, its cultural legacy, and why it still matters.
Wake up in the morning feeling shiny and energy. I gotta go to school. I don't think I can.
When Degrassi Junior High premiered in January 1987, teen television was still dominated by glossy formulas. Sitcoms like Growing Pains and Full House presented white middle-class families solving conflicts with hugs and punchlines. Even when shows tackled serious issues, they were packaged as one-off lessons that reset by the next episode. In Canada, programming for young people was even thinner, often eclipsed by U.S. imports. CBC and other networks offered the Edison Twins, Owl TV, and you can't do that on television.
New day, it's a brand new start.
None of them captured the raw, awkward realities of adolescence. For most teens, television didn't look or sound anything like their actual lives. Meanwhile, in film, John Hughes reigned supreme. The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They cemented the image of stylish suburban angst, while MTV pushed youth culture into a hyper-produced, image-driven space. Madonna's Lace Gloves, Michael Jackson's Bad Era, Prince in Neon. Cool, yes, but curated to perfection. Degrassi landed as the antithesis, unpolished, clumsy, even awkward, but radically authentic. Instead of movie star teens, it showed braces, acne, and thrift store wardrobes. Instead of fantasy suburbia, it gave you Toronto's East End. Instead of wall-to-wall pop, it leaned into silences and small details. For Canadian viewers, it was a cultural point of pride, proof that homegrown storytelling could stand tall against American imports. For international audiences tuning in on PBS and the BBC, Degrassi was a revelation. It didn't look like the MTV generation, but it felt like real life. The Degrassi story began in 1979 with two Toronto visionaries, Linda Schuyler and Kit Hood. Schuyler, a junior high teacher turned filmmaker, and Hood, an editor, believed television should reflect real kids, not the polished versions dominated by U.S. screens. Their first project, the Kids of Degrassi Street, was a low-budget CBC drama featuring non-professional young actors and everyday issues. It resonated deeply and laid the foundation for what was to come. By 1987, Degrassi Junior High premiered.
Degrassi Junior High, where students also learn about life.
I wish I was adopted. My parents are so boring.
This is frustrating. It's like we're stuck or something.
Watch Degrassi Junior High, weekday evenings starting Monday.
Introducing audiences to Joey Jeremiah, played by Pat Mastroianni, Caitlin, played by Stacey Misterson, Christina Spike Nelson, played by Amanda Steptoe, Snake, played by Stephen Brogren, and Derek Wheels Wheeler, played by the late Neil Hope. These every kids were funny, flawed, and heartbreakingly human. Spike's pregnancy storyline became one of the most talked about arcs in teen TV, and who can forget Joey, Snake, and Wheel's legendary Banzit remedy. Degrassi High carried the same characters forward from Degrassi Junior High, but the subject matter grew heavier. The series tackled issues like AIDS, suicide, abortion, and drunk driving with an unflinching honesty that set it apart from anything else on television at the time. Its conclusion led to the infamous 1992 TV movie Schools Out, remembered for its darker tone and for pushing boundaries, including the first use of the F word on Canadian television. Nearly a decade later, Degrassi: The Next Generation revived the franchise for a new millennium. It cleverly tied back to the original series through Spike's daughter Emma, played by Miriam McDonald, while also reintroducing familiar faces like Snake, Joey, and Spike as adults. This continuity helped cement the show's multi-generational identity, while the new cast launched fresh storylines and, in many cases, real careers. The Next Generation became a launchpad for future stars such as Nina Dobrev, Shenae Grimes, and Aubrey Drake Graham, whose role as Jimmy Brooks preceded his rise to global superstardom. In 2016, The franchise evolved once more with Degrassi Next Class, co-produced with Canada's Family Channel and branded internationally as a Netflix original. It reflected the concerns of Gen Z, addressing cyberbullying, gender identity, and global issues like terrorism and mental health. Though its run was shorter, it proved the franchise's willingness to adapt with each new generation of viewers. Across every iteration, Degrassi stood out for its continuity. Characters grew up on screen, storylines carried forward, actions had consequences that lasted years, not episodes. The continuity became Degrassi's cultural power. Spike's teenage pregnancy didn't fade into the background. It shaped Emma's story decades later. Snake grew from awkward teen to principal. Joey matured from class clown to single dad. Watching Degrassi meant watching lives unfold in real time. Internationally, this authenticity was magnetic. PBS brought Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High to the US. The BBC aired it in the UK. By the time The Next Generation launched, the show had become a global ambassador for Canadian TV. At its heart, Degrassi proved Canadian storytelling could matter worldwide. By honoring its past while speaking directly to its present, it built not just a fan base, but a legacy unmatched in teen television. Degrassi's fingerprints are everywhere. The UK's Skins borrowed its unvarnished, youth-driven realism, but turned up the volume with stylized excess, drug-fueled parties, fractured families, and cinematic episodes. Euphoria carried the baton into the late 2010s, blending Degrassi's willingness to show raw pain with heightened aesthetics and music-driven mood. Rue's addiction, Jules' identity search, and Maddie's bravado all echo the ordinary crises once faced by Joey, Spike, and Wheels, but turned into operatic tragedy. Even 13 Reasons Why owes a debt to Degrassi's DNA. Tackling taboo subjects like suicide and assault was straight from the Degrassi playbook, though its graphic execution sparked controversy. Where Degrassi leaned into empathy and consequence, 13 Reasons Why veered into provocation. Each of these shows wrestled with the same question Degrassi pioneered. How do you show teenage pain without turning it into spectacle?
But I'm HIV positive, and I got it from a chick. How do you like that?
Realism versus melodrama. This was always Degrassi's tightrope. At its best, it was empathetic and grounded. At its worst, it slipped into melodrama. But even that unevenness felt authentic, because teenage life is melodramatic. What feels small to adults can feel like the end of the world to a 14-year-old. That's why Degrassi resonated. It treated adolescent emotions as real, even when the execution wobbled. The question today is whether that balance would still work. In a streaming era of extremes where Euphoria turns heartbreak into operatic tragedy, would Degrassi's earnest realism still land? The truth is, Degrassi still matters, because it showed that teen stories deserve weight. It treated adolescence not as a pit stop before adulthood, but as a world worth exploring on its own terms. It gave teenagers their first taste of representation that was raw, awkward, and real. And it laid the groundwork for everything from Skins to Euphoria. Its legacy isn't perfect. The acting was sometimes uneven, the dialogue sometimes clunky, but its heart, its belief that young people's lives are worth taking seriously, remains timeless. So that's the High and Low Retrospective on Degrassi, a Canadian cultural export, a point of pride, and a pioneer of realism in teen storytelling. From the classrooms of Toronto to screens across the globe, Degrassi left us with a reminder. The stories of adolescence might be awkward, messy, and melodramatic, but they matter. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, be sure to share this one around. Like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into the shows that shaped us, challenged us, and gave us the courage to see our own lives as stories worth telling. Until next time, stay critical, stay nostalgic, and remember.
As long as it's discussed in a healthy and wholesome manner, I don't think there's any topic that can't be discussed.